Hello. Today I'm going to be making a Marel Rivals tier list. Now there are a lot of people that have made these tier lists since the closed beta, and it's been a while since the closed beta, but I figured that now that there's been time and we've gotten the reveal of Captain America and Bucky, that it would be a good opportunity to make a tier list myself. I played a very extensive amount of Overwatch 1, and a brief amount of Overwatch 2. Those are my only hero shooters that I've had experience with. But I did play a lot of the Marel Rivals closed beta, and I had a lot of fun with it. I think that the game is incredible. It is just so much fun to play with friends, and to play alone even. I just want to talk about how strong I think the characters are from the standpoint of someone that played casually. A lot of the tier lists have been people playing competitive, that are in like the upper ranks, the top 500, those types of things, competitive Overwatch players. So I just wanted to talk about the roster and how it feels from someone that was just playing with a group of people in quick play. We're going to start off with the Vanguards, and then move to the supports, or the duelists, and then the strategists or supports last. Let's grab the Vanguards here. Finally, we'll talk about Captain America and Bucky, for where I personally think they're going to end up. Okay. There we go. I knew I was missing somebody. Alright. We're going to open with Doctor Strange, because he's someone that I got to see a lot of. Doctor Strange is a character who has a lot of different abilities that come together to make this jack-of-all-trades character. He works from a mid-range to close range, and his abilities are as follows. He has a shield that he projects in front of him, akin to Reinhardt from Overwatch if you're familiar, or if you're unfamiliar. It's just a large shield that he holds in front of him that has, I don't remember the exact HP count, but basically allows his team to push up behind him and with him, and allows him to take the brunt of attacks. The shield doesn't do anything else, it just blocks incoming damage, but it also breaks line of sight for things like Scarlet Witch's ultimate, or anything else. It really does just prevent your team from being harmed by anything. It's really good, but it can get burst down if the enemy team is running a lot of projectile characters. If they don't have a Spider-Man, if they don't have a magic, then it's a lot harder to keep that shield up. Doctor Strange's other ability is a flight, where he just goes up into the air. It's really good up and down, not as strong vertically. I think the ability's okay. He usually wants to be with his team, so flying directly upwards not usually helpful, but it does allow him to take high ground, which is good. And his other ability, his major one, is the portal. And I think it has a 3-minute cooldown, but basically you place one portal in front of you, and then you put one anywhere else you want on the map. That could be, you could basically make a portal from off the map into the enemy spawn, have them all walk out off the map. You could put it from your spawn to the point. It is a really, really versatile, and allows for a ton of different strategies to be played. Overall, it's one of the best abilities in the game, but its cooldown makes it hard to rely on. His primary fire is decent. It doesn't do a lot of damage. It does probably less damage on average than most of the other Vanguards in the game, but it is consistent. And then his secondary fire is like a burst attack that does damage up close, and an AoE around him. That's also really good. It can be increased by his team up with Hulk. It just allows it to deal more damage. It fills a meter every time you land your primary fire from 0 to 100. The stronger the charge, the more damage it will do. Once you hit 100, you become unable to heal until you activate that secondary fire. So ideally you want to hit 100 and immediately burst, or hit 95 and burst. You don't want to hold it after 100. It'll also start steadily regressing back to 0. Overall, I think that Doctor Strange is a very good character, but he's not the best character. I don't think there's ever going to be an issue with picking Doctor Strange, but there are a couple of Vanguards that are just a little bit stronger than him. I do think that he's an A tier pick though. He is incredibly good. I would never complain about having Doctor Strange on my team. And that goes for most of the characters I'm going to talk about. This game does have a really strong identity in everyone being broken, so no one is broken. And I think that just works really well for it. And Doctor Strange is one of those characters where you just feel that overall strength. Magneto is, simply put, one of the best characters in the game. I'm not gonna struggle on it too long. I'm not gonna pretend that he's not. Magneto is a Vanguard who is kind of a better Doctor Strange in many ways. His primary fire is a projectile that he fires and then it blows up, so it does splash damage, helps you knock out things like flyers. It does decent damage. He has a shield as well that's smaller and with less health than Doctor Strange, but he's a little bit faster than Doctor Strange. It's more mobile than Doctor Strange's. And then his other abilities are a stun. He basically creates this chunk of metal and then throws it to stun enemies. And a shield that he can place on himself or allies. He only have one at a time, and it makes you completely immune to all damage while the shield's up, and it lasts for like a second or two. He is an incredibly strong character, and even if he had nothing else in his kit, he would still be one of the 2 best tanks in the game. But Magneto has a team-up ability with Scarlet Witch, who we'll talk about later. And the team-up ability makes it so that he gets another ability that changes his primary fire into a sword attack that effectively doubles or triples his damage output, making Magneto do as much damage as Duelist with the health of a Vanguard. He is incredibly strong. They already talked about tweaking that ability specifically, that we will probably see a Hulk buffs and Magneto and Scarlet Witch team up nerfs. So expect this ability to be changed, but as it stands, Magneto is the strongest character in the game. At least one of the 2, and I'll talk about the other one when we get there. The Hulk is a character who, unfortunately, I think underperforms in a lot of ways. I don't think he's bad, but his dive doesn't deal a lot of damage, and it's hard to knock flyers out of the sky with it. His primary fire does not deal a lot of damage. For melee attacks, you really want the Hulk to be dishing out these huge punches, but he never really gets those in. He hits like 100 times to kill an opponent. His stun is pretty good, though a bit janky at times, and his bubbles are good as well. I'm not fully sure myself of how the bubble works. I think it's not quite like Magneto's, but it's like a shield that takes a certain amount of damage before it pops. Overall, Hulk is not a bad pick, but I feel like he's this melee jack-of-all-trades that just kind of underperforms, whereas Magneto and Doctor Strange can do a lot of different things, but they overperform at them. And we'll see if the Hulk reworks fix the problem, and I think that they will. I think that all Hulk really needs to feel better is just more DPS. So we'll see with the Hulk, but unfortunately I think as he is, Hulk probably belongs in the C tier. Penny Parker is a character that I was very excited to try. I have a lot of history playing D.Va in Overwatch, and my initial thought of Penny was that she would feel the same. That's not very fair to Penny. Penny is a completely separate character. She is a defensive tank that sets up traps with mines and webs that slow opponents, and the mines that blow up on them. She does have mobility with her web slinging, although it's very, very different from Spider-Man's and Venom's, and it's significantly worse as well. Penny has one issue, and it's an issue that plagues any character that's going to be made into a defensive trapper, but Penny suffers a lot more than characters like Namor or Loki. And that's that Penny can only really effectively trap the ground. And in this game, Doctor Strange, Hulk, Groot, Venom, Thor, Black Panther, Hela, Iron Man, Magic, Namor, Rocket, Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch, Star-Lord, Storm, and Captain America now can all just jump over or avoid the obstacles that Penny is laying out, which just makes Penny's trapping a lot worse than it should be. On top of that, her primary fire just doesn't deal a ton of damage, and that leaves Penny in a pretty bad state. And unfortunately, it's not really her fault. It's less her kit being bad, and more that the stages and cast don't really support her playstyle. But Penny does feel to me like the weakest character in the game, and you can still get a lot done with her. I've seen multiple MVPs with Penny. Penny's probably the tank in the game that I was enjoying the most. I didn't really enjoy any of the Vanguards. Sorry, not tanks. The Vanguards. But Penny I did enjoy. I just think that they need to figure out how to make her a little bit more viable at catching and trapping characters that don't want to enter choke points anyways. Groot is a character that at the beginning I thought was very mediocre. And I didn't know where to place him. But over time, I saw him more and more, and I realized that he has a lot of different abilities that can come together. His abilities are a wall of branches that he can create. And when you hit an opponent, the branches lash out and also hit the opponents near them. And then his other abilities... I actually don't know his other abilities. Groot is a character that I don't have a ton of knowledge about, but I do know how he functions in a match, which is area denial in a way that Penny Parker wishes she could do. His walls do actually force a lot of the characters that I said could get around Penny to deal with it. They're just a lot taller than Penny's traps are, so even characters like Rocket who wants to dash over them oftentimes end up running into them, or they can be used to block off a choke point completely. So there's just no way to phase through it even, or invincibly just walk through it. I think Groot is a very, very solid character who I would need to see more of and get more knowledge of to fully understand where to place him on this list. But as it stands and how I've seen him, I would probably put him somewhere in the A tier. Venom is a character that I think is simultaneously overrated and underrated, which I guess technically just means that he's rated as he should be. Venom feels unkillable in the current state of the game. One of his abilities is the lower health he has, he gains back in shields. So if Venom is almost dead and he activates an ability, he will get his full health and temporary HP that goes down. This means that you effectively have to deal all of Venom's HP twice to kill him. Once for him to activate his ability, and another time for his ability to be denied. The only way to stop this is to CC the Venom to stun him out of using his ability when he gets to low HP and then bursting him down. But that's not going to happen very often to a good Venom. And then his other ability is web swinging, which just gives him as much mobility as a lot of the duelists, or better mobility than duelists. Venom is one of the fastest characters to get from spawn to point. And then he has his dive attack to immediately jump into the action, a burst attack to hit all people near him, and his primary fire, which does decent damage, but not a ton of damage. I think that Venom is the sort of antithesis to Magneto. Both of them excel at what they do, whereas Magneto is the most offensively destructive tank in the game. Venom is the most defensively destructive tank in the game. Venom alone on a point can stall for long enough for his entire team to come back. Whereas Magneto can just kill the enemy team. I think that these two are the best Vanguards in the game. But as for which is better, sort of depends on if there's a Scarlet Witch or not. Which is up to your interpretation if that means Magneto should be better because he is objectively better if Scarlet Witch is on his team, or if you should put Venom higher because Scarlet Witch isn't a guaranteed piece of the team. I have elected to leave Magneto as is, just because I think that he deserves that spot. With Scarlet Witch or without, he's one of the strongest, and when she is there, he just is so oppressive. Thor is a character similar to Groot that I don't have as much knowledge on his individual abilities. What I do know about him is that he works best as this sort of dive tank that moves in, usually with another tank, and sort of attacks the back lines or the mid lines, and then tries to move out afterwards. He's more of a beefy duelist than he is a Vanguard. And I think that works really well for him. But the only problem is that as he stands now, whenever you pop one of his 3 abilities, all of them go on cooldown for, I think it's 2 seconds, which can make the character feel a little clunky and not flow as well as he should. I don't personally know if I would fix that. I don't know because I didn't play much of Thor. I didn't get a feel for if I liked or disliked that balance. But I do know that Thor was pretty good, even with that clunk. And I think Thor in the right hands was pretty oppressive, and in the wrong hands was kind of nobody. But even when used properly, I don't think that he's as effective as Groot, Doctor Strange, Venom, or Magneto. And I know that this is a little bit shorter than some of the other characters, but genuinely I put more time in some than others, and I fought more than others. And Thor's one of those characters that I just didn't get to see a ton of, but I think that he would probably be somewhere in the B tier. Alright, we're going to talk about the Duelists. Duelists is a fun role. I played the Vanguards the least in this game. I really enjoyed playing tank in Overwatch, specifically D.Va, but in this game, Vanguard just didn't really click to me. I spent most of my time playing as Duelists or Strategists, which we'll get to the Strategists at the end. My most played character was a Strategist, but right below her was Spider-Man, Magic, and Scarlet Witch. There we go. Put Storm here. Okay. Oh, and Punisher. And then Mantis and Adam Warlock. Perfect. Alright, let's get into the Duelists. Starting with Black Panther. Black Panther is a character that's hard to gauge. I can tell, like most of the other tier lists that you've probably seen by now from the top players, that what they say about Black Panther is true. He's an incredibly strong character in the right hands. The problem is that he's also difficult, and a lot of people weren't very good at using him, so I didn't get to see a lot of that Black Panther's skill ceiling. What I did see though is how that skill ceiling works. Black Panther can mark enemies, and then he throws a spear at them to mark them, I believe, which is just a decent projectile, and then he can dash in, and if you hit the marked target with a dash, the dash resets, and he can do his melee combo on them and dash out to kill them. And that's sort of the flow of Black Panther. He really is this target that dives in, kills a person, and dives out, and you rinse and repeat that, and you just bounce off your team to consistently get kills over and over before the enemy can stop you. And I think that he's really good, but I don't think that he's S tier. I would probably put him above Doctor Strange and Groot. I would like to see more of Black Panther and to see if they change any of his damage numbers, but I do think Black Panther is a really strong pick. If you're looking for a duelist to invest time into and really get good at, you can't go wrong with Black Panther, especially if you're looking for the melee character to synergize with your team. Hela is a character that you guys probably know. Other people have talked time and time again about Hela in the closed beta and how strong she was. And even in the casual levels, probably even more so in the casual levels than not, this was true. Hela has a flight. It's not as good as like Iron Man's flight or Storm's flight, but she can get up in the air and then sort of camp at a distance. And then her projectiles are just these super accurate death daggers that she throws at you. And nailing a couple of headshots with that, I think it's a 2-tap on headshots for all of the duelists, is super painful. I think that Hela is a very strong force to be reckoned with. She has a get out of jail free card with her dash, that's completely invincible, and you can't stun her out of it. And then she has a stun of her own, which easily lines up her for 1 or 2 headshots if you land it. Her ultimate is not the best ultimate in the game. Once you pop it, you can't move. You just throw some fireballs at the ground, but she can't be killed out of it, which does make it very powerful. All of those things combined, I'm going to put Hela below Venom and Magneto, because I don't think that Hela changes the match as much as those characters do. But she does greatly contribute to it. And I do think that Hela is an S tier. She is the best duelist in the game, in my opinion. The next character we're going to talk about is Magic. Magic is one of the characters that I put the most time into in the closed beta, and I think that this character is incredible. She is a melee character like Black Panther, but her difference, the biggest difference between them is that she's less of a dive character. She's not really going in to eat the backlines and then trying to get out. She has more of a survivable melee. She's going to be going into the fight and trying to stay into the fight, kind of breaking through to let her team get a good opening. She usually does attack from the backlines or the mid lines, but it really is so that the rest of the team can push in with her, not so that she can dive in and dive out, heal, and come back. Her abilities are a dash, her main primary fire is a sword swing, and if she lands the dash, it does an uppercut and stuns someone for a little bit, and then she can get a free hit on them. And then she has a small teleport that moves in a fixed direction for half a second. She's completely immune during it, and then when she emerges from the teleport, she can either do a huge circular sword swing or spawn a little monster that constantly attacks in the same spot. The sword swing is exclusively better, but the monster could have uses to like hold a choke point while you back away. I think that Magic is not as good as Black Panther, but she is more consistent. I was scared of most Magics where I wasn't scared of most Black Panthers, but I do think that she's a little bit worse, probably right here. She is my favorite duelist though. I absolutely love that character. I have a ton of fun with her. You can't go wrong if you're picking Magic. Iron Man is a very strong character. He works best at like this mid to close range, and he has 2 main ways to attack. But before his attacks, he has free flight, where you can just fly up and down, left and right, and he moves at the same speed as people walking. So Iron Man plays the game in a 360-degree environment, whereas the characters that don't are stuck on the ground. He also has a fast flight mode where he boosts in a certain direction, and he can't use his primary fire out of it. He has these little rockets that don't do a lot of damage, and it's mostly used to just get around or get away from a situation. His primary fire is a pulse cannon, I think is what it's called, where he just fires it off. And this is mid-ranged explosive that it blows up on impact. It has no projectile fall, so it just moves in a straight line and then blows up. It is very consistent, very good. And then his secondary fire is a ray of light that he fires from his chest. And that attack is incredibly strong. If you have played Overwatch, it's akin to Echo's beam attack. But Iron Man's is super consistent. You get it back incredibly quickly, and if you're landing it, you are just dealing absolutely insane damage. Then you have his ultimate. Iron Man's ultimate is the single best ultimate in the game, in my opinion. It is literally, you stand in place in the air or the ground, wherever you are, and you fire a single big blast of energy from your cannons into whatever direction that you chose. And on impact, it blows up, and everything within line of sight, not being covered by a barrier or a wall, immediately dies. It one-shots every character regardless of their HP. All of these things come together to make Iron Man a super, super reliable character, with the best ult in the game, and his team up with Hulk makes him good, but he does have to rely on Hulk for that team up, who is one of the worst tanks. So I think that Iron Man goes into my top of A tier, where he doesn't quite breach that S tier where you're always going to want to pick Iron Man every single game no matter what. But if you're not liking the way that Hela plays, and you still want a flyer, Iron Man's a great pick for that. Similarly to Groot and Hulk and Thor, Namor is one of the characters that I didn't play as much. I did see him a lot though, and the character relies on setting up turrets to dish out these primary attacks. His main fire is a spear toss that has great speed and great precision. It's great at countering flyers, specifically characters like Hela or Iron Man that just kind of want to sit and do their thing. Namor's great at pressuring them off. And then the turrets that he sets up are these little octopi that can cover your flanks, or really just push down a choke point for you. His ultimate is this whale attack that flows up in the air and then smashes down on other people. It doesn't seem to be super good. The damage isn't super good. I'm not very scared when I hear Namor popping his ultimate. But the character overall is very solid. I think that he could have more potential if I see more of him or play more of him. Gotta play more to learn about Namor. And I think overall, the character sits probably right around here. And I know that's not a lot for Namor, for the Namor players. I apologize, I just didn't see as much of the character to give insight on like I did for Iron Man or Magic. Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the character I actually had the second most time with in the game. I think that he feels incredibly fun, first and foremost. The web swinging is amazing. The primary fire, being his melee attacks, feels great to land. The secondary fire are these web balls that he shoots. I might play the Marel vs. Capcom 2 sound clip, but if you know, you know.
Web ball!
The web balls that he fires hit opponents. If you hit them multiple times, they get trapped. But what they really do is set up to use your ability, which is a web attack that grapples onto people that you hit with a web ball, and then flings you at them and deals damage. Then you can land your third ability, which is like this uppercut punch, Shoryuken style, and combo those together to just shred squishy characters. The supports of this game get mowed down by Spider-Man, and he really becomes a menace where you can dive in, get a kill, dive out over and over consistently, and there's not much you can do about it. I think that Spider-Man and Black Panther are very, very interchangeable. It's really hard for me to choose who's better. I think that Black Panther is probably going to end up being the better character, but in my experience, I was much more scared of Spider-Man when I was playing support than I was of anybody else, and when I was playing as Spider-Man, it just felt so easy. His ultimate is this AoE attack where he shouts, "Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man," and he just fires in all directions, and if there's no shields, you mow down these any low HP characters dead from Spider-Man's ultimate if they're close by. And any large HP characters getting half their health shredded, and then they get stunned in a web, so you can get a free punch uppercut on them to finish them off. Overall, Spider-Man is just this incredibly difficult but rewarding character to learn, and if you want a melee character, you really can't go wrong with any of the three of them. But I do think that Black Panther is probably the more difficult to know if he's going to be better or not, but Spider-Man is a very difficult character who you are definitely going to get value from if you learn how to play as him. The Scarlet Witch is what you would get if you took Moira from Overwatch and removed every aspect of being a support from her kit, flooded her with more DPS options, and then called it a day. And for anyone that hasn't played Overwatch, what I mean by that is that Scarlet Witch is a very, very potent DPS character with a auto-tracking primary fire. It has pretty good range, and once you lock onto an opponent, you just follow them with your camera, and the beam that she fires automatically locks onto the character and slowly drains their HP. It does a ton of damage, truthfully, that you can just annihilate. Characters like Spider-Man, if you just follow him, he can rarely escape before he's killed, especially if you have a Mantis damage boosting you. Or a Magneto team up to give you increases of your stats, or the season bonus, whatever it was that was giving her the damage boost increase. But Scarlet Witch is just this super, super strong character, not including her other abilities, which are a fade that allows her to float into the air or in any direction that she wants. She becomes completely invincible for 3 or 4 seconds, maybe 2 or 3 seconds. And you can move in any direction, up, down, left, right. And once it's done, she re-emerges, and if you're still in the air, she has a passive hover, where she can like slow fall. Or you can just choose to land on the ground, grab a health pack, anything. The one problem with it is that you can't be healed while you're invincible, but it really doesn't make that much of a difference. Scarlet Witch is just super, super, super good at escaping any bad situation with that ability, or pushing in. And then her other ability is this little grenade that she throws on the ground. It doesn't fall, it just moves in a straight line, and then once it hits an object, it stays in place, and then it explodes over and over. And anyone stuck inside gets stunned every like second. They get stunned in place for about half a second. And it's this consistent like stun, 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 stun. And she can just dish out damage during that, or the rest of her team can focus them down and kill them. It's a little bit hard to hit, but if you throw it in choke points or at the middle of a team fight, you're going to get value from it. And then her last ability is her right click, or her LB, whatever you're playing on. And she basically just throws this little energy dagger, and it explodes on impact. And it's just a better like hit. It does more damage, but it adds certain charges, so you gotta wait for it to charge up, and it takes a little bit of aim to hit. It just gives her a higher DPS output, really. You can just hold your beam and then occasionally do that right-click energy dagger, and then hit them, beam, hit them, beam. Or you can just hold down beam if you're bad at aiming. I think that Scarlet Witch... Oh, yeah, also her ultimate is a slow charge explosion where she can still control her character but move very slowly. And then she shouts, "Pure chaos!" And at the end of the voice line, she blows up, and anyone in line of sight gets vaporized. Unlike other characters where like their body ragdolls or it does a certain amount of damage, it literally does 9999999 damage, completely unavoidable. You are vaporized on the spot. Then she has the Magneto team up that I talked about earlier. It gives him the sword that just like doubles or triples her damage, and combined with the fact that Magneto is the best Vanguard in the game, I think that Scarlet Witch is at least S tier, probably even better than Hela. If you want to consistently like get wins in the game, get a second person, get a friend, and just learn how to play Magneto and Scarlet Witch together, and I think that you will pretty much never lose until that team up is nerfed, which they already said it's going to be. But this is a tier list for the state of the game that I played it in, and I think that those two together made the best character in the game. Storm is a character I didn't play a lot, but I fought a ton. Storm was everywhere in the closed beta. She had free flight like Iron Man. She has a pretty standard primary fire, and then a speed boost ability that just makes her faster and I think deal more damage. And then her other one is a electric surge ability that makes everyone close to her take damage. I'm pretty sure that was her full kit. Her ultimate is one of the best in the game as well. She touches the ground and then becomes this tornado of energy that tears through opponents. She was really scary, but unfortunately, if you're choosing a flyer, you never really wanted to pick Storm over Iron Man and Hela, at least in my experience. And most of the times I was fighting Storms, you're able to overpower her just by focusing. I think that Storm was really good, but she wasn't fantastic. Next up is Star-Lord. Star-Lord is a character that really mixes the flight characters aspects alongside some of the ground shooters, and finds this pleasant balance between. He has high mobility with his dual pulse pistols that he fires with a low clip for high damage and then has to reload and does it again. His primary abilities are a AoE burst fire, kind of like a ability version of Spider-Man's ultimate. It's on a pretty short cooldown, or similar to Reaper's Death Blossom, but as an ability instead of an ultimate, if you know Overwatch. He just kind of fires in all directions for a couple seconds and then stops. It's decent damage, it's good for finishing off kills, but you don't want to use it too much or you'll be left vulnerable. He also has a dash, or like a flip kick, where he kind of dashes forward in a straight line. And then he has a jet booster ability, where he rockets off in front of him, and you can turn, but he still goes like straight ahead. And then you can fire and use your abilities during it. They kind of fly up and down like Iron Man or Hela or Storm. Star-Lord, and then his ultimate is he gets infinite of his rocket boosters, and then his primary fire auto locks onto targets. He is pretty good. I don't think Star-Lord is the best character, but I do think that he's reliable. I think that he's probably equal to or a little bit less than Storm. He's a very good pick. He's good for learning the game, I think, because he has a lot of different tools that you have to learn how to use together to get value. Punisher is an excellent character who really brings fundamentals from other shooters into Rebels and excels in a way that no other character can. His main ability is to swap between a shotgun and a assault rifle, and his other ability is that he can create a zipline to move from point A to point B, and it's honestly kind of bad. But just his fires, his two guns, would alone probably place him somewhere in the A tier. But he also has this sentry turret that he can set up and sit on, like this mounted turret, to really just own these chokeholds and these specific angles, and it makes it very difficult to move past him unless your team is very focused and coordinated. His ultimate is also one of the best in the game under only probably Iron Man's, which is Judge, Jury, Executioner. And he pulls out these two Gatling guns, and he moves a bit slower, but he mows down with like two of the mounted turrets that he usually can put up. He's an insanely good character who is very, very easy to play, and I think that he probably sits right about here on the tier list. His ultimate pairs him up with a Rocket Raccoon, who we haven't talked about yet, and it gives him infinite ammo. Overall, Punisher is a character to play as if you're just starting and you want a very simple shooter character. Coming from other shooters will give you more of an advantage here, playing things like Fortnite or COD or anything. If you're familiar with third-person shooters, then it's going to be more familiar to you than not. But overall, a very easy character that you can get value out of very quickly. Out of the duelists and into the strategists. These 6 characters are the backbone of a team. The ones that keep the vanguard up when they get too low, or that damage boost the duelists to get their job done. Without them, the team falls apart more or less, and you always need 1 or 2 preferably on your team at a time. We're going to open up with Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock is a character that is very potent. He has a very nice primary fire that does decent damage and heals. I believe he heals with it. He might not. He might heal with something different. And then his ability is that he can choose a target and spread the damage that they're taking between all of the allies around them. So if you get attacked by Hulk's ultimate and you're a Star-Lord, then using the ability on Star-Lord will spread that Hulk ultimate into the Punisher, the Doctor Strange, and the Adam Warlock, keeping everyone alive. His other one is just a heal. It does a more potency the less people are close. So it's kind of the opposite, where you can just heal one person to full on your own, or if you're healing a group of people, you snap and it spreads the healing between everyone evenly. I think he's a very, very reliable character without many flaws. He also has a passive where once he dies, he becomes a ghost and can respawn himself immediately at any location he wants as long as he walks to it. So he's pretty much always going to be in the fight, always going to be providing support for his team. And I think that Adam Warlock is just a very, very, very reliable source of healing. I would pick this character if you were starting up and you want someone that has a little bit of everything in terms of the strategist's role. Jeff the Landshark is by far the most shocking addition to the game, but in terms of gameplay, he's actually quite simple. He can drop these bubbles that act as medkits on the ground, and then he has a ray that heals people as long as he's firing at them. So similar to Moira's healing from Overwatch if you've played it, and if not, basically he just fires a beam in front of him and anyone that you're hitting with the beam is getting topped off. His secondary fire is this little ice ball or water ball that he fires from his mouth. It just flies through the air and then blows up on impact, similar to other characters. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but it does allow him to win some fights. And then he has a team up with Luna Snow, where he turns the ice balls into, or the water balls into ice balls, and they just do a lot more damage, and they slow enemies on hit. So super, super good team up. Unfortunately, and then Jeff's other abilities that he can burrow into the ground. He becomes a lot harder to hit. It's just his shark fin sticking out of the ground. And then his ultimate is that he swallows allies and enemies in a huge circle around him, and then he can spit them out wherever he wishes, typically off the map. This is also one of the best ultimates in the game. I know I've said that a couple of times, but it really is. And but overall, I think that Jeff's kit falls a little flat. His numbers are a little too low, and he ends up being a good support, but one that you can struggle to get value out of. I realize that I haven't talked about a couple of these team-ups, so I'm briefly going to go through them. Venom has a team-up with Spider-Man and Penny Parker, where if either Spider-Man or Penny are on a team with Venom, they can press a new button to activate a third ability for the character, which is like a burst of Venom goop. It's really good with Spider-Man and Venom because Spider-Man can't one-shot characters that are a little beefier than the fragile ones. But with the extra damage from the Venom team-up, he can do his web ball, grapple, uppercut, melee attack, and then pop the Venom ability. And it just kills the character instead of not. It's super, super powerful. The two work together very well. Hela has a team up with Thor and Loki, which I will talk about once I get to Loki, just because we'll have all three characters on the board. Iron Man has a team up with Doctor Strange and Hulk, though Hulk is the one that starts it, so it works with Doctor Strange and Hulk, or Iron Man and Hulk, or all three. Iron Man's ray attack that he does becomes green and does a lot more damage, and then Doctor Strange's burst attack that he does turns green and does a lot more damage. Both of them are good. Unfortunately, Hulk is not, so the team-ups don't see much usage. Punisher's team-up, as already previously mentioned, is with Rocket Raccoon and gives him infinite ammo. Black Panther's team-up is with Magic, and both of them get a new ability, which is to create a portal that they can go into, kind of like Doctor Strange's, but a lot smaller scale, and they're the only ones that can activate it. Adam Warlock has a team-up with Star-Lord and Mantis, which gives his passive to respawn to both of those characters. Groot has a team up with Rocket Raccoon and Jeff the Landshark, where both of them can perch on his shoulders to take a little bit less damage and follow his movements. Storm has a team up with Thor, where the characters get supercharged with electricity and it just makes Storm stronger. The same is also true of Captain America, who is not on my list anymore. I don't know where he went. I'm going to have to edit this out. Okay, the same is true of Captain America. The three of them just get supercharged with electricity and become stronger. Namor has a team up with Jeff the Landshark and Luna Snow, where they get charged with ice. Similar thing with Thor and with Hulk, it only matters if Luna, Snow, Thor, or Hulk is on the team, and the other ones get the bonus. The characters get charged with ice, and their main abilities become stronger. And then Hela has a team up with Thor and Loki. I'll just talk about that now. I said I wouldn't, but here we are. Where if Thor or Loki die, then if Hela gets a kill on an enemy, the characters respawn instantly without having to wait, and they respawn right where they died. Bucky also has the same team up that Punisher and Rocket Raccoon do. Loki is a character that struggles to find his place. He creates clones of himself with his main ability that shoot when he does and follow wherever he's looking. This can effectively double or triple his damage output or healing output as long as the clones are placed in good spots. And then with the click of a button, one of his other abilities is swapping spots with his clones to immediately teleport to that location and have the clone take his old position. This makes fighting Loki a little bit confusing, where he's constantly blipping around, and you don't know which Loki is the real one. But overall, he has a passive as well, where he does bonus damage on a melee if it's a back hit, like a hit into the opponent's back. And his ultimate is that he transforms into another character and can use their ultimate ability. Overall, the kit sounds very good, and it seems like it should be very good, but in practice, Loki's healing and damage numbers are too low, and he unfortunately struggles a lot to find value. I would love to see this character buffed a little bit. I think with a little bit more damage and healing, that he would be in the A tier, but as it stands now, he's in the C tier. It's hard to find a good use for Loki where you wouldn't rather be playing Rocket, Luna, Mantis, Jeff, Adam, or just those characters. There's no other sports or strategists. Sorry, my Overwatch brain. But I do really like the character. He's not bad by any means. It's just he finds a hard place. Luna Snow is a character that I saw a lot of, and I didn't really get the value from. She has a speed boost ability where she can make her team faster, which is very helpful. And then her healing and damage numbers themselves are pretty good. But a lot of her kit is just very lackluster. If she hits a target over and over, they get frozen, which is good for the rest of the team to focus and kill them. But Luna Snow takes a lot of aim and skill to get good with, without much of the payoff. It's difficult to get as much value with Luna as you would other characters, but I do still think she's good. Her ultimate ability is Transcendence from Zenyatta if you play Overwatch, and if you don't, basically everyone close to her becomes all but invincible, as long as they stay close to her for a period of time. The benefit, though, is that she can switch this super healing into damage boost instead, and damage boost her whole team if you'd prefer. Overall, Luna Snow I think is a very good character, but can still find a struggle to get in, especially when her team up is with Jeff and Namor, who are equally not the best at their respective roles. Mantis is a character I'll talk about after Rocket. Rocket Raccoon is an excellent choice for a character. He is has a great DPS output for a strategist. He has a machine gun, just a full-on heavy-duty machine gun, and or a minigun, I think is what it is. And the little dude is crazy with it. He's short, which makes it a lot harder to aim at him. And one of his abilities is a jet booster, where he flies in the direction he's looking, making him extremely difficult to get a grasp on to kill. And really good at getting from point A to point B, from spawn to point, or from point to the next choke. Wherever you need Rocket to be, he's gonna be very fast. His other ability is to place this little turret-looking thing that just sits there until the next person dies, and it respawns them at the turret for free. It's a long cooldown, but Rocket can do this to just continuously keep his team in the fight. His secondary fire is his healing, where he shoots this slow-moving healing orb that bounces off of walls and floors. If that sounds similar to Moira, it's because it is. For those of you who don't know Overwatch, basically it's just a fast-moving projectile that heals anyone that gets close to it. Whereas Moira's isn't. It's not fast-moving in Overwatch, but it's close enough that it's still relevant. Rocket is a character that you really can't go wrong with. I think he's even better than Adam Warlock. He's one of the better characters in the game. But I don't think he's as effective as, like, Spider-Man would be, and that's because you're not going to be taking games with just Rocket. You will need your team to be working with you. His ultimate, though, while I'm here, is that he places down this disc, and the enemies can shoot at it to destroy it, but if they don't, it's a damage boost to the entire team. Overall, Rocket, again, an extremely solid character. If you're looking for a support and you like dealing damage, and you like moving fast, Rocket Raccoon is the character for you. Mantis is the character I had the most time with in the closed beta, so there is 100% bias speaking here. However, I'm not the only person to say it when I say that Mantis is one of the best characters in the game. Mantis is the best strategist in the game. And the reason why is simple. 1, she has a passive speed boost when she's not in combat. This makes getting to the point much faster. She doesn't have to rely on using her cooldowns to get to the point like other characters do. So when she's at the point, she immediately has all of her cooldowns locked and ready to go. 2, Mantis' damage output is very, very good. Getting headshots, you can melt through tanks like you're playing a duelist. Or vanguards, sorry. You can melt through vanguards like you're playing a duelist. And her healing isn't bad either. She does this regen healing that she can choose to place on people, and it's not very good burst. So if they're going to die, you can't really pick them up from 0 to 100. But you can really easily top off your whole team by giving them the regen and moving on to the next person. 3, her damage boost ability. Using the same resource as your heals, you can damage boost an ally instead. I don't know what the actual percentage of the damage boost is, but it's insane when you place them on characters like Hela, Magneto with the sword, Scarlet Witch, Spider-Man, Punisher, Iron Man. Any of those characters with a damage boost is insanely strong. Or you can give it to yourself if you're really good at nailing those headshots and become a true duelist on your own. 4, her ultimate is Sound Barrier from Overwatch, and if you don't know what Sound Barrier is, everyone around her gets an extra like 1200 HP that's temporary and constantly goes down over the course of the ult. It basically just makes it impossible to kill your team for the next 5 or so seconds, making team fights where enemies are sinking in their ults immediately winnable again, as you just negate the 2 ults that the enemies use with the single press of a button. And then lastly, Mantis' last ability, aside from her ult, which I'll get to, is Ana's Sleep Dart from Overwatch, which again, if you don't know Overwatch, is this projectile that she throws. Unlike Ana, which is like a projectile without fall, this one does fall. She throws it like a pouch, and it flies through the air in an arc, and where it lands, it explodes, making one enemy fall asleep for 5 or so seconds. If the enemy is hit, they're immediately woken up. But if not, they can perform 0 actions. They can't move, they can't shoot, they can't anything. For 5 seconds, Mantis can just remove somebody from the fight. It helps her get away, it helps her get in, it helps her team focus a target. It is just an incredibly, incredibly good move with a pretty quick cooldown too. I think it's 12 seconds, which sounds like a long time, but for stunning someone for 5, it's really good. Then, Mantis' team up with Adam Warlock is incredibly good as well. The ability to just come back into the fight whenever you want to makes this very, very potent. It just skips the respawn cooldown. Overall, Mantis is an S tier character. I think that she is probably better than Scarlet Witch even. If you are playing this game and you're playing a strategist, I highly recommend trying out Mantis first. She has everything that the other characters do and more. I think she's one of the most complete characters in the game. Unless you're a really big fan of mobility tools, then I would probably stick to the other characters in the A or S tier. Even the B tier is fine. C tier and D tier are viable too. If you really think Loki's going to speak to you, by all means, go play Loki. He's not bad enough that you're not going to get value from him. I just think if you're learning the game to start, it's better to choose one of the stronger characters to quickly get value and understand what you're supposed to be doing. Captain America and Bucky are characters that are not out yet, but I did want to give my insight. I know that people are playing them currently in the playtest. I'm not one of those people. They only invited content creators, and this is my first video, so not much of a chance there. But I do think that I have a decent idea of where these characters are going to end up placing. And I think that Captain America is going to be an extremely solid A-tier character, probably right behind Rocket Raccoon. His main melee attack is a 1-2-3, but his 3 is that he throws the shield and it ricochets off of nearby enemies. His other ability is that he has a permanent sprint and higher jump than the rest of the cast. He has a dive attack from the air, which is super, super helpful. And then he has a shield that reflects projectiles, including ultimates. So he's the only character in the game that can just deny ultimates for free. Though the shield does have HP, as long as you're managing it, you can just pull it out, deflect an Iron Man ultimate, and put it away again. I think that he's going to be an incredibly solid character. I think Bucky is going to be the best DPS in the game. He has a heavy, what are they called? Heavy arm cannon, pistol cannon. A heavy-duty pistol. Has 2 shots in it, and he goes BAM! BAM! And reloads. The bullets pierce, so they can just go through an enemy team. If they hit the Venom in front, it goes behind, hits the Hela, it hits the Iron Man, it hits the Punishers, if they're standing in a straight line. And then his other abilities is a arm grab, where he throws his arm out like a grappling hook and then pulls people in. That also pierces, so you can pull multiple enemies from their line into yours. You could hit both supports, you could hit 2 DPS, a DPS and a support, or duelist and strategist, and pull them into your team and watch your team mow them down. He has an uppercut where he just launches forward and uppercuts somebody, which is also really strong because it guarantees you're going to get at least one or both of your pistol shots off. And then his ultimate is this dive attack where if he hits someone with it, they get the status where if they drop to 20% of their health or lower, they immediately die, on top of the ultimate dealing damage. And every time you get a kill with it, the ultimate resets, so you could potentially chain it to wipe the entire enemy team. On top of all of that, his team-up ability with Rocket is that he gets infinite ammo, which is insane for his 2-shot clip. And every time you use one of his arm abilities, his pistol reloads. So overall, I think Bucky is just going to be this insane character that is so strong and such a force to be reckoned with that he shapes the way that teams are built. In short, I think that Marvel Rivals is a very well-balanced game. I think that you can pick any of these characters and do well with them, no matter what rank you're in. But this is just my opinion of where I feel like the characters stand personally. As someone that just played a lot of quick play with friends, a lot of casual games, but I did play a lot of them. And this is where my stance on the roster would be. And it's going to look different from people that have been playing in Gold and Platinum and Diamond and in Masters and Top 500. But I think that it was worth to look at the game from a casual perspective and see what feels like the best characters to players that aren't as good. And just talk about them and what they do and why they feel so strong. I do think that the C and D tier characters need some help from the developers. I think that Penny needs a little bit of a rework, and that Hulk and Loki just need numbers buffs. But overall, even those 3 characters can excel just as much as everyone else. I really, really enjoy this game. I think that the character design is so strong in visual and gameplay. And I can't wait till December 6th to get my hands on the full game, hopefully with a lot more characters. I'm going to be making another list that includes the characters that haven't been revealed yet, just some of the rumors and speculation of what I think that those characters are going to be like in the grand scheme of things. But I wanted to start with the characters that are officially in the game that we've seen, that we know, and talk about, just again, how that feels. Hopefully the list made sense. If you disagree or agree, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Just tell me what character you played the most, And then if you agree or disagree with a specific character placement, just explain why. For me, I think that this game is going to balance around 2 major team compositions, which is Magneto, Scarlet Witch. Actually, I think that's going to be on every team until that's changed. The real team combinations that I'm seeing a lot is Mantis and Adam Warlock, and then Hela and Spider-Man. Or if you go with Rocket and Punisher as your main team comp, which I'm assuming would also add Bucky to the mix now, and Mantis being your secondary healer, and it kind of just balances around those. If you want to have a Mantis Warlock set with Hela, with Scarlet Witch, with Magneto, or if you want to have that Rocket Raccoon set with Punisher, with Bucky, with Mantis, with Magneto. So we'll see. We'll see as the game moves on. But I am really excited to see what this game has to offer. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Have a good one.